And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. Zolgad and Declan Goff, as always, previewing Game 5 of the Wild Golden Knights series tonight in Vegas. Wild now down 3-1 after two very disappointing games at the X. And on the brink of elimination if they lose tonight. One change that is going to be made, not because of performance, but because of injury. Carson Soucy reportedly out tonight. And Calen Addison, a bright young prospect on the blue line, is going to be in for Soucy. Might provide some more offensive punch. We'll have to see. A lot to get to here, Declan Goff. A lot to talk about. But I guess we should start here. Why aren't we seeing Matthew Boldy tonight?
Answer's as good as mine, Judd.
And is Kyle Rao back in for Bukestad still? I mean, Parisi's probably clearly in.
I bet it's the same lineup that it was outside of the Addison ad that it was for Game 4, which is extremely unfortunate.
Where are the adjustments here? And you went through earlier today, I think it was off the air or on Mackey and Judd. I'm getting old, so I forget which it was, but you went through the litany of guys who are basically in the same boat as Boldy and are going to be playing tonight. Spencer Knight, first-round pick by the Florida Panthers, is going to be the third goaltender that the Panthers use in their series against the Lightning. Cole Caulfield, drafted after Matthew Boldy in the same draft, a guy that a lot of Wild fans hoped the Wild would take, is going to play for Montreal. Like, we're seeing guys being put in. I'm very confused here by the lack of adjustments made by the coaching staff and the Wild as a whole. And when your adjustment, which you, of course, did a marvelous job about melting down on Saturday on Wild Vent Line, when your adjustment is, we're going to take Bukestad out and put Kyle Rao, a career minor leaguer, in. This, to me, is not encouraging as far as what I want to see from a team on the brink of elimination that, by the way, to be very clear, has played two terrible games.
Yeah.
The first two games were marvelous. The Golden Knights are the better team, but that does not excuse you being crappy. And for essentially the last 5 periods, the Wild's been crappy. And to not acknowledge it or make changes or not throw in a potential spark in Boldy, who, by the way, there's no downside to him playing at this point.
Correct. 0. Valuable
experience, potential spark. Worst case, no spark. But guess what? It's not going to ruin the young man.
Right.
So I'm thoroughly confused from the Guerin and probably just as much or more so Evason standpoint as far as what they're not doing and whether they're learning from this. And I've got to start with Dean there. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's pretty puzzling. I don't really understand a situation where Vegas has all these very good talent, very good depth, and Pacioretty still has yet to play. That you would think that you're going to have to look at the evidence right in front of you that you've been out-muscled, you've been out-worked, you've been out-possessed, you've been out-classed and skilled. I think that it would be foolish not to play Matthew Boldy, at least to give you a punter's chance. And to me, ironically enough, it seems like they're punting. It seems like they're punting on this series and as we're recording, Sarah McClellan also points out Kyle Rao isn't in the morning skate right now, so he might not be playing.
So Bukestad be back.
So it's probably Nick Bukestad. I'd be shocked if it's a fast one they pull on us in warm-ups and all of a sudden it is Matthew Boldy as we record this on a 1 o'clock Central Time right now. But at this point, it's pretty frustrating because you've seen what this core has been able to do against Vegas. And, could they steal one tonight? Maybe, but I'm not really optimistic in that front. And if Matthew Boldy at least was in there, I'd feel better about it. I'd at least feel better about it 'cause right now, and I'll be the cliche person that I told you after Saturday's loss that it's one game at a time now. Your season's on the brink. You have to win 3 in a row to move on. So you may as well put Matthew Boldy in, and instead it's probably gonna be just another swap for Kyle Rao and Nick Bukestad. And then that's what last thing on this too. That's what pisses me off even more about Evason saying, "Oh yeah, he played fine. Then we're just gonna sit him again." Well, no, because he wasn't a factor, Dean. He was a non-factor.
He played like 9:37.
Yeah.
He played the fewest. He had the least amount of ice time, and this is the right move. But he had the least amount of ice time of any player that played in that game. So like he was a non-factor. Like you replaced Bukestad, who I think is a serviceable type of player, with the guy who you basically aren't going to use.
Yeah.
And Boldy could have gotten in. I mean, Boldy should have played in Game 4.
I don't get it.
And I'm just confused. And so I'm going to draw a parallel. I'm going to draw a direct line between these two things. And the only difference is the Wild won a game, okay? This to me is the Twins. The Twins can't score in the playoffs. The Wild can't score. But furthermore, from a coaching standpoint, or in Baldelli's case, a managing standpoint, think about the parallels here. Because my thing with Rocco is the series against the Yankees, Dex, what did you learn, right? Like, what did you learn? Your bullpen use was atrocious.
Yep.
Your rule of thumb with starters in the regular season has to be adjusted. You didn't. And then, of course, he came back against the Astros last year, Target Field, and pulled the same stunts. Learned nothing. That's why I'm concerned about this. Like, Dean's not learning right now. And decisions are being made. I mean, here's what I really hate. There are guys playing now who are basically, it looks like the default process is, well, they held that position all year long. Yeah. Now, Parise doesn't get that pass, but we have guys playing right now and nothing is changing. Like, I mean, what more, and I'll go back to the well, and I don't give a damn. I'll just go back to it. What more do we need to see from Victor Rask in this series for him to be demoted to the fourth line? Like, Sturm can keep up.
Yeah.
Victor Rask can't. What more do you need to see? Like, at some point in time, you are literally, if you're Dean, banging your head against a brick wall. And like, this is going to feel good eventually, guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you start chasing the game, if you're down after the first period here in Game 5, you're going to see probably, and more maybe even after down in period 2, you're going to see an all-out blitz trying to figure out anything because your season is legitimately on the line on minute times. But at this point, I don't see any reason to continue to play Victor Rask. I think this is a learning experience too. I think there might be something to say, even if I can defend Dean and Bill here, that, all right, is this core ready? Is this core it? Is this the core we want to build around? At least the supplemental guys, those Johanssons, the Victor Rasks, Nick Bugsteds, etc. Is this the core we do want to build? And, tough blank. If this is not how it's going, then we don't want to keep you here. So maybe there is some rationale there. I hate that rationale right now because it's the postseason and you're not guaranteed. Like, I think there's a lane that some Wild fans could be falling into a trap here too, and we touched on this in Mackey and Judd, is you're never guaranteed future success. So you're probably looking at this Wild team right now, and you're thinking third in the West, right? Or third in your division, in the one-off division, but it's only going to get better. 4 years from now, this will be the worst of the 4 teams. You don't know that. You can assume that, yes, this is the building block to something special, and I agree that that's where we're trending, but for you to assume 4 to 5 years down the road that the 2021 shortened season was the quote-unquote worst, you'd have no idea how that works. You saw it in 2015 when you lost in the second round of the Blackhawks that you thought, oh, all right, great showing, tough way to lose, but years to come. 2 years later, you were bounced in 6 games in the first round of the Stars, and then you had to start a rebuild. So it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. So you have to be able to take these chances and hopefully move on. And I hope that they know that you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
Well, and just from a strategic standpoint too,
yes.
I'm talking about Marc-Andre Fleury's been fantastic, okay? But you're struggling and you're trying to score goals. In the last 2 games, it's been like Dean in the third period starts to be like, I got to press some buttons here. Why isn't that urgency there, at least in Game 4, from the first period? And tonight, it should be there. Like, this is what I don't get. And if your whole thing is, well, this is what got us here and we're not going to change from this, that's a major problem. Going forward, right. That's a major problem. Because I'll tell you what, right now, this season, if the Wild goes out in 5 or 6, we're going to say, okay, Golden Knights were really good. That was a lot of fun. And the future looks bright. But if you repeat this process a year from now, and look, the playoffs are tough. Kirill Kaprziov's learning that. Playoffs will kick your ass. That's how this works. That's why it's considered probably the toughest trophy to win, the Stanley Cup, in all of sports as far as playoffs go. If you continue down this path, you're setting yourself up for the failures that we saw previously.
Right.
Like, you need to adjust. You need to hold guys. I mean, I what they did with Parise, to me, I will sign off for, because I think the move was right. But then you can't be like, but Victor Rask is our third-line center, our second-line center. You've got to change some things up and not be afraid to. And I'm not saying scratch him, but guess what? Third period, game 4, he was demoted for part of that to the fourth line. So, like, okay, keep that going tonight then. It's just what really, excuse my French, pisses me off is that we saw how this team can play in games 1 and 2, and they lost game 2, and it was a fantastic hockey game, and they lost. Vegas is ultimately the better roster. But what we've seen in the last 5 periods, because the first period in game 3 was fantastic, what we've seen in the last 5 periods is not excusable. And this team has more to give, and they're not giving it. And you know what? Kaprziov might be hurt. Guys might be hurt. But until you tell us they're hurt, I'm not going to assume that your excuse is, well, we had a lot of guys banged up. So you had an opportunity here in games 1 and 2 to leave a mark, and you did that, and you were really competitive, and you won a game. And you went home, and after a really good first period, and oh, boo-hoo, you've had 2 goals disallowed by the big bad of referees. They make you mad. You don't have enough fans.
They're working against us.
All of the excuses, put them away. Ladies and gentlemen, you win a Stanley Cup by not making excuses. If you want to be grouped in with a bunch of losers, make excuses. Because everybody's got them. Everybody's got problems. We just spent a year in a damn pandemic. Everyone's got problems. But guess what? The winners overcome those problems, and they keep going, and they keep their head down. They don't say, well, we lost goals, and we had 2 goals. It's 2 goals! You lost both games regardless.
All right, well, I have some answers for you, because we just got a line chart that just came out. It's from Sarah McClellan of the Star Tribune, friend of the show.
I love it. You could put up anybody.
Greenway, Foligno stays.
Okay.
Kaprizov, Rask, Zuccarello. Parise, Hartman, Fiala. Sorry, Kev. Bonino, Sturm, Bukestad. And then Suter, Spurgeon, Brodin, Dumba, Cole, Addison, rounding things out. So Victor Rask actually, if de facto, kind of getting a promotion, if you will. And Judd, I think, might be out. That might be the end of our Game 5 preview here on Judd's Hockey Show on SKOR North. And Victor Rask instead, getting demoted, has earned a promotion, probably looking for, I'm guessing, as Judd Zulgad gathered himself, probably said a couple words, comes back in here, screamed to the high heavens. I think what their rationale here, Judd, and I don't agree with it, just saying what I think they're thinking, is they're thinking that if Victor Rask reunites with Kaprizov and Zuccarello, things will go back to the good old days and we'll have something new to work with. I don't know who I feel bad more for. Kaprizov playing with Rask or Fiala that he has to play with Parise. I don't know which one. I probably feel more bad for Kaprizov. You all right? You're thinking.
Calming down, too.
Okay.
I went to check our fridge here to see if there was a beer in there.
Oh, well, yeah. Sometimes there are some stragglers. I've seen that before.
I actually need a drink, and I probably need a stiff drink. Okay. This is the answer. Victor Rask is the answer. Parise has now been promoted. A guy they acknowledged fully couldn't skate in this series. Kevin Fiala is going to play with 2 guys. Well, one guy who could be his father and one guy who should be probably a third-line winger. Victor Rask, who was demoted to the fourth line in game 4, is now bumping up to center a line with the Wild's best player on it, who has been struggling and has taken 8 shots on goal. Kevin Fiala and Kaprizov, the logical combination in an elimination game to put together to try to put as much pressure on Marc-Andre Fleury, is not with Kaprizov. And as I also go through this, Marc-Andre Fleury's been spectacular, and you now have one guy with Kaprizov that can't skate and one guy who's going to pass to him, and Kaprizov, the way he's going of late, will just pass back. This is so stupid. It's unbelievable.
I kind of want them to lose.
No, I want them to be smart. I want them to do something that makes sense. How is this your answer? How is this your response? This is ridiculous. And by the way, the Ekline's been great, but he's your best center. You at least have to give thought of putting your best offensive players or player. Like if you're not going to do Fiala and Kaprizov together, you at least have to give thought to giving Ek Kaprizov. Mm-hmm. This is ridiculous. This is an absolute non-response. This is a fireable line chart. I mean, this is stupid. This is, yeah, you're right. It looks like they want to lose. It looks like they want to lose. How does Victor Rask draw that assignment? He literally can't keep up. And now, so within your top 9, you now have two guys that can't skate with this series. I'm astounded. This is awful. Like, this to me, I just hope our guy, Billy Guerin, friend of the show, love Billy Guerin.
Yeah, done multiple times.
I hope he has nothing to do with this. This is incredibly stupid. And by the way, it also said, so all of the good that you did, and I loved it with Parise, is undone because you keep giving Rask chances like he's good.
Right.
How is he not in the 4th line? How does Sturm not bump up? Mm-hmm. Like, what are these guys? And don't tell me, well, Sturm's a liability here and there. You're basically almost done. And Sturm has something Victor Rask in his wildest dream doesn't have, which is speed. Like, how do you not react to this and get PO'd? Ridiculous.
Oof.
I got nothing for you.
I know, man.
I got nothing for you on this. I mean, literally, it's like the Twins. It's Groundhog Day.
Yes.
Oh, well, you know what? No, I'm going to cut the Twins some slack. Game 2 against the Astros on the precipice of being eliminated, which they were. Alex Kirilloff got in. And he's their Boldy.
Yep.
They played him. He got a hit.
Exactly.
No, this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. This is as mad as I've been at this team this year. I mean, I like this team. I like what they've done. I like where they're going. But this, to me, is a red flag on coaching. Big red flag.
Yeah. It's disappointing, man. It's very disappointing. And if they come out and win, and see, they knew what they were doing. Fine. Point the finger at us. I don't care. Mostly at Judd, by the way. I'll be in the room as well. I'm an accomplice in this trial.
This does not give you the best chance to win, though.
But it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Like, this is about what? What's the word the kids use now? The process? This process is flawed beyond belief. And it has been now for a few games. Honest to God, what are you doing? Look, all right? Kaprizov's not playing well, and I don't care what the underlying stats say. He has 1 assist in 4 games. He's a dynamic superstar player. That's not playing well. So don't give me he's doing this and doing that. Take those stats and shove them. What you have here is a guy that needs a kickstart, which I'm all for. And Kevin Fiala would help provide that because those two together have to be accounted for. Like, do you think? Vegas is laughing right now, Dex.
Yeah.
They're in their locker room, rolling around on the floor, laughing. They now have to worry about Victor Rask. Ryan Hartman's more of a threat at center.
He honestly is.
He is.
He honestly is. Yeah.
He is. And you're going to give him 49.
Wow.
Who skates like he's 59. I got nothing for this. I'm disgusted. I am honestly disgusted.
Yeah, this is disappointing.
I would like to do Judd's Hockey Show featuring my new team, the Carolina Hurricanes. How about that?
My eyes.
Brother Liam, we'll kick him in here. He could tell us.
Okay.
Team Nino.
It's the last thing I need is more Liam in my life.
Or, Nashville. How about that? The home of Luke Kunin and Mikhail Granlund.
Hey, really quick.
Yeah.
Let's touch on that because clearly I think we've exhausted our resources here. Not resources, because that was not an exhausting resources conversation, but that was a great rant. We hope the Wild win. Just a brief little NHL playoff thing. Number 1, my Isles hopefully can win these next 2. They're evened up thing with the Penguins.
Tough series.
Series.
They look great on Saturday.
Fun series.
Islanders look great.
That's a playoff team right there. That's a playoff.
Yeah, Barry Trotz is a playoff coach.
Second, Luke Kunin. All right.
Yeah.
You and I were doing a mid-show or reacted very shortly within like minutes when that trade came down on draft day. Because remember, it was a draft day trade for when Luke Kunin was moved to Nashville.
For Bonino
and a second-round pick who turned into, is it Kuznetsov? It's another Russian who's one their a highly regarded prospect the Wild have right now.
Yep. Yeah,
and
he's good.
I said initially, a gut reaction that I don't like this trade.
Uh-huh.
I said, gut reaction is I don't like trading a 23-year-old who has some nice scoring. He isn't a flashy player by any means, but a guy who can score, and he's 23, and he's cheap, and he's controllable. Mm-hmm. I don't really like that. Mm-hmm. Now, Nick Bonino, I will say, means more to the room than Luke Kunin does, at least at this point in his career. I think Luke Kunin has a lot of good tendencies. He was a captain at Wisconsin, captain at World Juniors. The guy definitely is a no BSer. I don't think he would fall into the trap
Agreed completely.
Of being baited into bad tendencies. I think that guy will be a leader in the NHL is what I'm trying to say.
Agreed.
So when he goes out and scores 2 goals, not 1, 2 goals, including the overtime winner, for Nashville.
Yep.
In a primetime moment.
Yep.
Which he has done also before in his career at World Juniors and at Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
This is where I have trepidations about that trade. And Kunetsin, whatever the hell, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it or say it again. He's a Russian prospect, I believe, also in the KHL. He looks like he has a very high ceiling.
Yep.
He could pan out. And this might end up being a very savvy move for Bill Guerin, but we won't know if that trade really pans out for probably at least 2 years. Mm-hmm. And that's where, when I see Luke Kunin scoring goals, Luke Kunin is scoring goals in the postseason for Nashville.
Yeah, he's good. He's a good player.
And the Wild can't buy a goal. Wild can't buy a goal. Yeah, that's a kick in my manhood right there. That's a kick in the manhood. And I could eat these words again in 2 years, but I wouldn't undo the trade necessarily, because I think Nick Bonino has meant a lot to this year's group.
Right.
But there were warning signs trading a guy, and I saw this too. Well, analytically, Luke Kunin is underwhelming performer. He's a bottom 6 guy.
He also got hurt quite a bit this season. I think he got hurt twice.
Yeah, he did. And he still is scoring a rate at about 20 goals per 80 games.
Yep.
He's a nice player, and also a guy, too, who could turn into a Nick Bonino type in the room one day on his career.
Right.
So seeing him score those overtime goals to me was a little more salt of, could have possibly used a Luke Kunin in the postseason.
Yeah, so on this one, I agree completely in this sense. This was not a guy who was traded who I'm pretty sure I never said he needs to go.
Yep.
So the Wild has some former players who are doing well in these playoffs who had to go. Nino, Coyle, Granlund, in my mind. There were guys who had to be traded. And that does not make them, Zucker, that does not make them bad players. So those guys, in my opinion, are good players. Together, it became toxic, okay? Kunin does not fit in that group. I guess I do have to see how the prospect plays, but yeah, Luke Kunin was never a guy in that room, and back in the days, Dex, when we could go in the room post-game, Kunin was never a guy who I saw as any type of problem, and he does have a tendency to score some really big goals, and I was certainly told before, and I think he was captain of the
He was.
U.S. junior team and at Wisconsin. I was told before that he is definitely a captain type. So I need to see how the trade plays out. But I think everything that you just said might be spot on. Like, I will defend trading a lot of guys. And I know that individually those players are nice players. They're good players. But in that room, it just didn't work. And they had to go. Kunin's not in that group. So I get what Guerin was doing with Bonino. I understand that he saw him as a stabilizing guy, and he's done a really good job in that role, I think, up until now at least. But yeah, Kunin's never a guy that I'll pile on as far as being not a bad guy, but just not fitting in. I think he did. So you might be right. Like, I'm not worked up about it.
Yeah.
But like, his success doesn't shock me. And I do, of the guys who are now playing for the Predators who used to play here, he's one guy that I didn't see being traded.
Sure. And look, they got a good haul for him. I believe, they got the second round pick.
And if they got a prospect who's good, yeah, that's great.
It might work out really well. But it's just, it's salt in the wound watching Luke Kunin score 2 goals, who, by the way, has 4 goals in 8 career playoff games. He scored 2 goals last year against Vancouver when the Wild played in the play-in.
Yeah, he's got talent.
He's got a clutch gene. So
absolutely.
And that's where, again, and I think I'm the analytic guy of the 3. I'm not all in on analytics. I don't crutch through them 100%. But when I see, analytically, he's a disaster. And as Corsi 4 suggested, yeah, he's a underlying player. But there is something about the Nick Bonino types, the Luke Kunin types, the guys that score big moments and big goals in big moments.
Yes.
And Luke Kunin, I do think has that trait. I do think he has that trait.
Question for you before we get done here that I don't get about this. Why doesn't it seems to me like from the stats that you give me, the analytics world doesn't account for who guys play against.
Sure.
So like Bonino has tough matchups a lot, but he gets penalized with potentially underlying negative stats.
Yeah.
Like, I think you have to account for the shifts.
Yes.
Like, if I'm going up against your top player and my stats suffer, that's not fair to then judge me against our second line wing whose stats are good but he's not playing against their best players.
Sure, yeah. And this is where player tracking, I think, has to develop in the NHL. And we're getting there.
Or penalty kill. I mean, that's not going to be favorable to me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where, again, there's other ones that you can possibly use and whatnot, and you can try to dissect it. But the way they work the best is if you can supplement it with your eye test. That is when they work the best. If you just look at the analytics 100%, you're making a mistake. And that's also where I think a lot of old hockey guard who already has trepidations about analytics and other teams who are trying to embrace this thought.
Right.
And by the way, I think we are in a better place with analytics in the game than we were even 3 years ago.
Sure.
You have to be able to use it with your eyes. You can't just have when an analytic guy goes in there, he has to show it with the video too. He has to work with a video guy to say, hey, it's not just here's this data on an Excel spreadsheet, Bruce Boudreau. Here you go, and use it how you will. It's hey, this player does well in this situation. If you see here on it's a complete team effort, and we don't see that. We don't get to see that because we don't really physically work for the team. Mm-hmm. But that is the best way to go about it: is using video and your eyes with the analytics to get the best result. The best result.
Good explanation. All right, so
we'll be back tonight.
I am not happy. Yeah, I'm not pleased.
Well, we'll
see where things go in Game 5.
You got 8 hours before puck drop. You could, if you wanted to, get a little buzz going, nap around 5:36, still take a couple hour nap, and be ready for the game. So I mean, you do
I'll
with
do
your
me,
liver.
but I'm not happy.
You do you with your liver.
I'm just not happy.
Okay.
All right, say your thing.
Pass, shoot, score.